All right, I believe we are live. Thank you all for joining us. I'm gonna get started here in the next few minutes. We're gonna let people join. We're gonna be streaming this on our website, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitter, pretty much everywhere. As we're going through this whole presentation on just updating everyone on COVID and the business resources and the loans and everything, drop comments in on whatever platform you're viewing this on. We're also going to be doing this on our website. So if you are on the website, make sure there's a chat there. It's going to come right to my phone and I'll get those comments as well. So if you guys have questions throughout this, just either do it the chat on our website or feel free to do it on Facebook or Twitter or LinkedIn, wherever you're doing it. I'm going to bring on, before we get started, I'm going to bring on Charlie Stevens. We're streaming it on his LinkedIn. And he's one of our partners and advisors at Entre. And he's also a real estate broker. So he's going to give everyone a quick update on the real estate market and everything that's going on with that as well. Charlie, you there?
Yes. How you doing?
Good.
Good to see you. I like your quarantine beard.
Yeah, I think everyone's got that going on.
Right. So we were going to talk a little bit about the real estate market, but more so some options, what you can do if your office lease or your retail lease or whatever it is coming due. You know, you got April, May, and you can't even get in there. There's obviously some issues going on. So a little background, little context. Real estate broker, work with Cushman & Wakefield, office leasing advisor. We host a Leaders Live show to help founders and entrepreneurs understand the best practices. But the day job is with Cushman & Wakefield to better help these companies grow, help them find new office space, help them grow into new office space or whatever it may be. So a little bit of what we're seeing right now is pretty much all deals are at a standstill. We've had some leases out for signature, and basically all tenants can't make decisions right now. And we understand that. I think landlords understand that too right now as well. But if you are in a current lease and you're having a tough time paying your rent, this is a great time to reach out to your landlord if you haven't done that already and ask for some sort of rent relief, some rent deferment. You haven't been able to get into your office for the past month, or you're just trying to stay safe. You need to kind of lay that out. Reach out to your landlord directly to explain what's going on with your business, explain how you're getting hit. I think in the past we talked about this. I kind of suggested just giving a friendly email, say hello, and start that communication with your landlord. Understand, let them know where you sit, where you are, and basically opening up the discussion to see how they can help. A lot of landlords have a rent deferment program or they're looking into it, but you want to be on their radar. So as they continue to put these programs together to help their tenants, you want to be in that vicinity of the conversation. You got to understand a lot of these landlords have mortgages and they have partners that they got to respond to. You may hear my kids in the background screaming, 3 wild boys. So make this quick. But essentially, asking for a few months of free rent, maybe to start off with. But again, opening up that conversation. Some landlords are giving half rent. Some landlords are not giving anything. They have an obligation again, so they might just say, go kick rocks. But at least you want to open up that conversation. If you have a good real estate broker, maybe they put you into a good office lease with a good landlord. But that's definitely something to look forward to if you're looking for a new office space. How credible that landlord is, how they work with tenants. And with the rent deferment, essentially you owe that month's rent, but you may be able to push that off and get some free rent for these three months, 2 months, whatever it may be, and push it to the tail end of your lease obligation. Something interesting also we've seen is one of our clients, his lease coming up at the end of the year, early 2021. And we were discussing possibly doing a lease extension. Now, usually when you do a lease extension, 5 years, 3 years, you'll get some sort of free rent. What we're talking about structuring is doing a lease extension, but using that free rent right now where it's needed.
Right.
So they still go out to the remainder of their lease at the end of the year, but the free rent and the extension that they're putting out, instead of getting that free rent when you sign that lease extension, you're going to get it now in the time of trouble and need, what's going on right now. So that's an interesting insight we've seen. And then when you do reach out to landlord and you are looking for some sort of rent deferment, keep in mind they're probably going to ask for some sort of financial statements of what's going on. They want to, you got to kind of sell that story. You got to tell that story. You're working hard, but there's obviously chaos in the world. So you got to kind of sing that song, and hopefully that they can work with you and understand your troubles. But that's pretty much what we got right now. I mean, regarding the real estate market for office leasing, again, no deals are being done. I think that you're going to see a lot of space coming back because there's going to be some businesses that are failing. That probably means the rents are probably going to fall, but I don't see anything like that coming to light in the next, 6 months, 12 months or so, because a lot of things are going to shake out, and we don't know what that's going to be right now.
Gotcha. If people don't have a real estate broker right now, do you think it would be helpful maybe to talk to someone like yourself to help them negotiate it with their landlord?
I mean, listen, if they got a broker, if they got a friend, if they need a friend in real estate, I'm here to answer any questions. But essentially, when it comes to the rent deferment and all that stuff, I've even told my clients to reach out to the landlord directly to not even negotiate that, because I'm just a kind of like a guy in the way at that point. And maybe you can look like the landlord, we're being aggressive and saying, hey, we need free rent, or we're going to go under, we're not going to pay rent. This is more open communication with your landlord. But at the end of the day, yes, I think you first talk to your real estate broker or advisor, I like to call myself, so that they could try to walk you through some additional options. And you should really have a lawyer look at the lease and look at, what you have in the lease, because depending on how the lease was negotiated, the language could either protect you or hurt you. And then the other thing I would say also is they're going to ask for the business interruption and insurance policy. Most tenants are going to have the insurance policy. So they're going to first ask if you've read that over and made sure that you're familiar with all your additional options. But I mean, the steps to go through it, it's changing every day. And a lot of landlords are changing what's going on. So again, talk to your real estate advisor, see what they say, let them look over your lease, let them look over your lease obligation, the rest of your lease, and what you owe, and then try to come up with some solutions to figure out how to get through this tough time.
Yeah. I think right now everything is on the table and everything is negotiable. One of the reasons why for people just coming in too, we're just doing a quick real estate update here. I think it's really important for people to do this if they have, even if at a co-working space or whatever type of lease, any type of business expenses, reach out to the people. You never know who's going to be able to cut you a deal right now, or who's going to be able to work with you on renegotiating your terms of your contracts or lease and all of that stuff. I don't know if there's anything else, Charlie, that you wanted to add, but I really appreciate you giving us this update. And, we'll probably do another one next week or the following week as well on the real estate market too.
No, that's it. If you need any advice, drop a comment in, reach out to me on LinkedIn. And if you need any, advice looking over the lease, I'll be sure to look over it. I'll give you some people to reach out to on the legal side. But I'm here here to help.
Okay, great. Let me, I want to get your, hang on. There we go. Sorry, I'm playing around with things here. I want to get your email here for people to drop at the bottom, just so we can give it to people who are watching. It's Charlie. Yeah, there we go.
Charlie Stevens at Cushwake.com is my real estate email address, which I just put in StreamYard. You got it.
It's Cushwake.
Cushwake.
Cushwake.com.
Yep, Charlie Stevens with a PH at cushwick.com. And in the meantime, if you got some time to, you want to learn and progress, get yourself better, look at that. It's nice scrolling, looking good. If you want to get better, check out charlienyc.com. That's some of the past interviews we've had on the Leaders Live show in connection with Entre. We just released the latest one with Laura Chow. We had a conversation.
Awesome.
Yeah, so it's on iTunes. The podcast is there. The videos are there. charlienyc.com.
Okay. Thanks, Charlie.
Thanks, Mike.
Yeah, we got a lot of awesome events coming up with Charlie. He's going to be interviewing some VCs, angel investors over the next couple of weeks. So
some of the best.
Stay tuned. Yep. Thanks, Charlie.
Right. You got it.
Alrighty. Without further ado, I'm going to bring up Will and Dan to kick things off here. Hey, guys.
Hey, everyone. How are you?
Good, good. Let me get this banner off so it's not covering your face there, Will. And I'll leave it to you guys. I know there's a lot of updates to cover. This is Dan's first stream with us, so welcome. Welcome, Dan. Thanks for joining us. Feel free to give, I'd love, even for you both, for people who don't know you, Will, Dan, you can give people a little bit of background on yourself. Obviously you were an SBA attorney, and obviously you are still a lawyer and you have your own practice now, but I think it'd be helpful to give people a little bit of background on yourselves, and then I'm just going to hand it off to you guys. I'll be in the comments and I'll be here for everyone. If you're watching on the website, you'll see there's a little chat. That's going to come right to my phone. So if you have questions, feel free to ask them on there. And I'll let you guys give all the updates on what's going on right now. There's some crazy stuff, always new updates coming through. So I'll kick it off to you guys. And thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks, Mike.
You got it.
All right. So for those of you who don't know me, Will Winter from Winter Accounting and Advising over in Verona, Pennsylvania. We've been working with small businesses I've been working with small businesses for about 15 years. Went out on my own, started Winter Accounting and Advising about 3 years ago, and we've seen success stories and stories that maybe didn't end too well, but we've helped multiple clients through various events out there, and COVID-19 is no exception. This is our third time presenting through Entre, so thank you, Mike, and all the folks at Entre. We've constantly been reading article after article after article on, what are they saying now on the EIDL loan? What's the latest and greatest? Why are people upset? Or the triple P loan. Like I said last time, I'm getting tired of saying PPP. So now I'm referring to it as the triple P loan. If we can even call it a loan anymore, that's up for debate there. And then we have the employee retention credit, which not too much has changed regarding the employee retention credit, and we're going to see a lot more taxpayers and small business owners and business owners in general taking advantage of this employee retention credit now that first quarter payroll is initially due 4/15, but that's also pushed back to July. However, we are recommending that everyone that has quarterly payroll tax returns due still file your tax returns as soon as possible, because your CPA is going to be stuck in June or early July preparing 2 quarters worth of payroll tax returns. I had that epiphany yesterday. So I am pushing to get all my clients' payroll returns done for the first quarter as soon as possible. It'll also give us an idea of how the employee retention credit is going to come into that as well. And again, you can't take that employee retention credit if you qualified and are now a triple P loan owner. I'm going to talk a little bit about some updates, and I think when I start mentioning the affiliation rules as it pertains to the triple P program, that's where Dan's going to come in, and he's going to share his expertise with that, because that's very important as well. We didn't go into the affiliation rules previously, but I think now that it's been around for a while, this is a perfect time for Dan to bring that all to our attention. I think everyone has access to my PowerPoint slide. I think it is up on the screen. I guess Mike, let me know if it's not. Otherwise, we'll keep on going. There it is. Thank you. This is the PowerPoint slide that I presented to all of you 2 weeks ago. Nothing's changed on the slides. However, I'm going to run through it real quick, and we're just going to do some updates. So, the economic injury disaster loan, the EIDL loan, not much has changed other than, you know, we're all not getting 10 grand anymore. Well, to this day, I don't think anyone's received a dollar. You know, now the new rules are everyone that applies, generally, if you apply for this loan, apparently we get $1,000 per employee, up to 10 employees. So we see how that's evolved. We went from a flat 10K each to $1,000 per employee. So that has changed, and I have yet to hear from anyone that has received $1,000 for one employee. Let me know otherwise if there's anyone out there that has received money. So we're all going to be calling you.
Yeah, well, I think you're definitely right, especially what I'm hearing on my end. No one has received any economic injury disaster loan advances yet. Those are a couple weeks behind. That's not to say people aren't going to get them eventually, especially if there's more appropriated funds from Congress. But it's the same on this end. No one's gotten them so far. They're extremely delayed.
Yeah, so, you know, I anticipate, and within the next couple weeks, we're going to see some funds. But, you know, just like with the PPP loan and the stimulus payment that we're all supposed to be getting for qualified individuals, it was slow in the making, but the stimulus payments are trickling in. Actually, a fair amount of people have gotten them already, and I'll go through in a little bit of who's already gotten their stimulus check, and if you didn't get one, why not? You know, assuming you qualify for it and you didn't get it yet. We'll go through that briefly so you're not in the black as to, hey, what am I doing? Am I doing something wrong? Oh, the IRS is saying I don't qualify for it now. Well, you know, I'm getting these comments and these concerns from multiple clients, and I have to assure them that there's a reason for it. We have to, we're making a few assumptions here with the reasoning, but that's all we can go on right now until the IRS starts processing more stimulus checks. So that's it on the EIDL loan. Not much to say other than, hey, we're all still waiting for the money. The PPP program, banks are starting to dry up. I had a client call me today, and he said he actually texted me, and there was an exclamation point at the end of his text saying, hey, Will, I was going through the loan process, and all of a sudden my bank let me know that they're not giving out any more money. I'm not going to say what bank that was, but now I've heard from a few people that a few banks out there have already done this. And so some of the money is drying up, which is a concern. To leave politics out of it, I guess government is talking about extending some more funds to fund this program, in addition to other programs that are kind of in the works. But I would still encourage everyone to try to apply for it. Where we are running into issues now, especially now that the 10th has come and gone, self-employed individuals. I'm getting more questions from my self-employed clients than any other client we have, because the instructions aren't straightforward. I'm getting questions as to, hey, Will, I'm self-employed. Am I an employee for this purpose? Am I not an employee for this purpose? What the heck do I do? I have no clue. So, you know, we try to help them through it. You know, and the big confusion is, hey, what are our average monthly payroll costs as a self-employed individual? I don't pay myself. So does that mean I don't qualify? Well, no. Well, you know, our understanding is based on the instructions, it's your net self-employment income. So a good starting point would be your Schedule C that was filed either for 2018, for 2019. So if you didn't get your tax returns filed, you will need to have a good set of bookkeeping for your 2019 financials. You'll have to have a good income statement that shows your net income. And if you're self-employed, that's going to be your net income subject to self-employment. That's what they are accepting for eligible payroll costs. Then you would take your net and divide it by 12, and that's your average. And then you multiply it by this famous 250%. That's your magic number. You add some, for the most part, if you have employees, then you add back your gross payroll to your employees as well, along with other eligible payroll costs. And that's how much your loan would be for. It's as of now, it's as easy as that. I've seen varying instructions from different banks as to what they're requesting and why they're requesting this stuff. And some banks are going a little overboard with what they're requesting, and some banks are requesting exactly what I just mentioned. It'll be interesting to see how long this PPP program lasts due to this new funding that hopefully is going to be pumped into this program. Hey, Dan, do you want to add anything to that before I move on? You maybe want to talk about the affiliation rules.
Yeah, absolutely. So first off, because Michael rightly called me out saying I haven't introduced myself to the crowd yet, but I'm Daniel Kane. You can call me Dan. I'm a lawyer in New York that focuses on small businesses and startups. And that is in part because I worked at the Small Business Administration in DC for a number of years in a number of different roles, working on regulations, government contracts, and specifically size and affiliations, which Will rightly points out with the PPP program. First, I want to say no one should be too discouraged or panicked that the PPP program has run out of money, because we knew this day was going to come. We've had people flooding the lenders with applications since, April 3rd? Even getting applications in before we actually started the program. I think what will likely happen is we will likely get additional appropriations from Congress for this program, because this program, according to the CARES Act, is supposed to go until June. That and the COVID crisis is nowhere close to over yet. So I think there's a lot of factors pushing Congress to adding more money. I'm not saying they're going to add the same amount. I'm not saying they're going to add more. But some of the things you might want to watch out for when it comes to the next bill, those things are going to be, are they going to expand the pool? Are they going to say we need additional businesses covered by the PPP loan program? Sorry, Will, I'm going to use PPP. For instance, not-for-profits. Not-for-profits, according to the CARES Act, according to the statute, any not-for-profit should be covered. But the administrator of the SBA and Treasury excluded a lot of not-for-profits, saying only 501c3s and 501c19s could qualify. I've heard a lot of chatter about challenges to that exclusion for not-for-profits, and I think there's going to be more challenges as we go ahead. You might see Congress address some of those in some statute that comes out in the next round with some more money, especially for the self-employed and the independent contractors that only started applying on the 10th. So again, don't be too discouraged, don't be too panicked, but you should definitely consider talking to your lender now to see if they're going to be opening it up anytime soon, because they'll be the first to know from Treasury if there's more money. When it comes to size and affiliation, it's definitely something you need to pay attention to when it comes to the PPP loans, but any small business program from the SBA and a bunch of other federal agencies. The way you calculate size in this instance is specifically based on employees. And you can see from Will's slide, most businesses and not-for-profits with fewer than 500 employees qualify. The areas where people get into trouble, or they possibly have an opportunity they don't see, is if there's a different size standard for your business because of the industry you're in, or because you're affiliated with other companies. And the first point, you should be looking at the resources that Entre is going to be providing to you in the next couple hours with a cheat sheet of what to look at from SBA. One of those is going to be the size standard tool. SBA has put together a little user interface to help you figure out what your size standard is, because there's a size standard for every industry. And some industries are 500, some are as much as 1,200 employees. If you base it on revenue, some of them go up to 37.5 million in average annual revenue. So there are very wide ranges of size standards, but the rule of thumb is 500 employees if you want the quick and easy rule. When it comes to affiliation is when one company controls another company. And so SBA treats them as one. SBA says, okay, company A is applying for a PPP loan, but they're really in cahoots with company B, which has the same owners, has the same managers, has the stock of company A, or shares some other kind of economic interest with company A. And that's exactly what those affiliation rules cover. If your company's owned by an individual who owns multiple companies, you're likely affiliated with those other companies. So you have to count their employees as your own when you're applying for this. Same thing if you have critical managers. You have someone who controls the day-to-day operations of your business. If another company has the same managers, you are walking a fine line of being affiliated and then having to count as one big company. And the reason that matters is that can push you over the size standard. And if you get over the size standard, you don't qualify for this, you don't qualify for many other small business programs. The other affiliation rules are pretty straightforward, just like ownership. You have common managers who are likely affiliated. If an individual owns the majority of your stock, SBA looks at that stock and says, we're going to treat that as if he executed it today. Any powers he or she has right now, we're going to say he's executing it. Does that mean they can control the business? Yes or no? And usually if it's the majority voting stock for a company, absolutely, they're going to be owning and controlling. Same thing with identity of interest, although it's very factual. If, say, I open a business and Will happens to be a close relative of mine, even though he's not. He and I are affiliated under SBA's rules, meaning that his accounting firm and my legal services firm are affiliated, so we have to count each other's revenue and each other's employees when applying for these small business loans. Same thing if I have another relative who has a farm. I have to count their revenue in my revenue, their employees in my employees. Unless SBA is told, I don't have any affiliation with Will. I don't act in concert with him. We're not that close. There has to be like a clear break in the relationship, or you're in a totally different industry. After you go through all those and you find you don't have any, that's great. Apply for the loan, say how many employees you have, and then move on from affiliation. The lucky ones out of the CARES Act are the restaurants, the hotels, the other food industry providers, because they don't have to pay attention to any of these affiliation rules if they have less than 500 employees. And that's a huge deal for them because that's food companies with investors don't have to pay attention to who owns stock. Restaurants that are members of franchises, that could be 100 different restaurants, they don't have to pay attention to affiliation. So you have all of these companies that normally don't get any lending from SBA that immediately get lending from SBA. And well, I think that's a very broad overview of affiliation. Is there anything in particular that I wasn't clear on, or you think I should expand on? All right, Michael, is there anything you think I should expand on? Will, can you hear me?
Yeah, Will, where'd you go?
I'm back.
Okay. Cool.
Another internet mishap.
That's okay. So I was just wrapping up affiliation and talking about if you're in a restaurant or a hotel or any of the Sector 72 businesses, you don't have to pay attention to affiliation. This is a walk in the park for you if you have less than 500 employees. So is there anything you want me to cover?
No, thanks so much. Sorry for the disconnect there. We have an internet issue, and it always seems to happen right when I'm doing a webinar. So,
well, welcome to the COVID lifestyle that will continue.
Yeah. Yep. All right. Well, thank you, Dan. That was added a lot of value, and I'm sure that's something that everyone can take away from today, adding that to their understanding of these new rules and. As we see them, and the rules have changed forever. Now these rules are here to stay. If there's, God forbid, there's anything in the future, there's going to be affiliation rules likely attached to it as well. So it's important that people know this stuff. So thank you.
I will say that businesses should keep an eye out on any guidance that comes out or any next bill that comes out, because SBA and Treasury had waivers in the actual statute for restaurants and hotels, but then they granted a waiver to religious organizations without any statutory authority. So they likely could expand that to certain industries if there's enough support from Congress or the president to push them in that direction. And if that's the case, it's a totally different ballgame.
Yeah, I also just want to add to, for everyone who doesn't or is just coming on late, we put together a comprehensive document with all of the stuff that they're going through with links to everything. If you go to our website, the link down below, joinentre.com/live, or if you just click the live stream button on our website, if you scroll down beneath that, there's a button right there to get this this document. It's just it's a Google document that we're going to be constantly updating with all the new stuff that comes out, because this is, a lot of people don't even know what's going on. Number one, even within the government, they don't even know what's going on. So there's going to be so much that's going to be changing over these next few weeks, which is why we're continuing to do these live streams, just to keep everyone informed of what's going on. And we put together a document so that people can just keep referring back to that. It's totally free. Just go to the website and you can, download the, you can go onto the Google Doc, or you could print it out, whatever. Like I said, we're going to be constantly updating it. Will and Dan have done a great job, putting everything in there. So if you guys want that, again, it's just the link, joinentre.com/live, and you'll see it right there. Or feel free to just reach out to us, and we're more than happy to send it to you. But I just wanted to throw that in there real quick before you guys continue. That way people can kind of follow along and at least get that before they miss it or check off the live stream. So,
Will, can I add one more thing about the PPP loan program?
Absolutely.
So one thing I think businesses should definitely keep in mind as well is if they were denied a loan from the SBA, they can appeal that decision. They can ask for reconsideration, especially when it comes to size and affiliation. If the lender got it wrong, that's a very easy way to try and get the loan and get right to the front of the line when there's more appropriations.
That's a good point.
So anyone could, if they get denied, is that just the PPP loan, or is that also the EIDL loan too?
So that's generally for most SBA loans.
Okay.
So, unfortunately, and surprisingly, Treasury and SBA's guidance for this program don't have any regs in them. There's no regulations. There's nothing for an attorney like you to look at, except for the statute and then some loose kind of binding guidance. That doesn't talk about the loan forgiveness piece. It doesn't talk about the loan appeals piece, because for an SBA loan in a normal context, you can take that denial and you can ask to reconsider it. So if you think the lender got it wrong, you could also amend your loan application if it is a loan application problem, like whether you didn't disclose something, and that goes to a particular official in SBA.
Gotcha.
So in the size context, that goes to I think the director of finance, and then it goes up to an appeals court.
Okay, so they could appeal their loans, and then they could also amend their loans too.
The application, they can amend their application. But
okay, fantastic.
Because when it comes to forgiveness, you're probably going to see the same thing. People are not going to get forgiveness for something, and they're going to want to fight for that forgiveness because they need the money.
Yeah, I just filled out because we weren't since our primary bank is Bank of America, we actually were not eligible for the PPP loan through them because they require a lending relationship. And if you don't have a lending relationship with them, you can still apply. as long as you don't have a credit card with another bank or another provider, which is literally any business. So they totally screwed like us and many other companies that I know of, and everyone was up in arms with it on Twitter. And I've been trying to figure out, well, what are the other options for PPP loans? Can I apply with it from a different angle? And the reason that we couldn't was because we have a Brex corporate card.
Yeah.
So I actually reached out to Brex, and they have a basically a partnership right now with Radius Bank. And I just did the PPP loan application through them, and they're partnering up on it. So it seems like a lot of these banks, if your bank doesn't, you can't do it through your bank, there's other banks or other brokers, providers that have been granted this access to provide PPP loans, even if you don't bank with them.
Yeah, and that happened a lot with different banks. Like
Yeah.
my own Federal Credit Union told me that they weren't accepting applications from anyone except existing customers. And that was kind of the nature of the beast because banks didn't have guidance.
Yeah.
So that, if they said you couldn't apply because you're not a customer, that's not something you would do with SBA having been involved at that point. It's when you're denied a loan for a certain reason, governed by regs.
We also have a link on our document that Mike mentioned too that brings you to a list of approved PPA. Caught myself. Triple P provider. Financial institutions and other institutions that are providing the Triple P loan availability. You can go on the website and there's a link there to bring you to it. I don't know how. I clicked on the link briefly, so I don't know how user intuitive it is, but there is a link out there that it will bring you to everyone that's approved to give this loan out. Is that correct, Dan? Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I think that's right. Because also you're going to see a lot more lenders included in this pool because normally a bank has to go through an application process to get approved to give SBA loans. Same thing with the PPP loan program, except that Congress has given SBA and Treasury the authority to grant authority to other companies and potential lenders under new regs, under new rules that they set. So you're going to see a lot more fintech companies actually lending in this space. I've seen a couple advertisements already this week for fintech companies trying to get in. I think the one's Cabbage. There's another one. I don't think that's going to go away. I think that actually might increase the number of SBA lenders generally that you have going forward.
Yeah, that's a good point. Well, thank you. I think we've all been educated a little more today, even on this Triple P program, and it's good to hear from someone like Dan, knowing that this there is still help. I guess we just have to all still remain patient. We're going to all go home tonight, have nothing to do, get to stay indoors. We're still going to have to just stay patient, and help is on the way. It's been on the way. And it's there to stay. So just be patient, everyone. Thanks, Dan.
No problem. Do you want to move on to the Triple P tax credit sort of stuff?
Yeah. So you're talking about the employee retention credit?
Yeah, because I know you have a good synopsis in your slides of whether or not you can get the PPP loan or you can get the tax credit. Yeah,
right. So for those of you that have tuned into our first webinar a couple weeks ago, the employee retention credit, it's real. There aren't a lot of complexities to this employee retention credit, especially since the IRS released a form very quickly on this employee retention credit for advanced to get this advanced credit. It's the form 7200, and it actually didn't make it on these slides. However, it is in our detailed Word document that Mike had mentioned too, that everyone has access to. So, and this employee retention credit is going to come into play real soon, if not already. I'm assuming there's a lot of CPAs out there and a lot of businesses that are now doing their quarter end tax filings, and they're able to, if they didn't take advantage of the Triple P program, they are able to take advantage of this employee retention credit, which you can get a credit up to $5,000 per employee. For the first $10,000 of wages that you pay to such employee. So that's a real good, a real nice credit to have. And it also combined that with the deferral of the Social Security, the 6.2% Social Security tax that the IRS put out. Combined with that deferral, it's a pretty good way to kind of, you know, retain more money in your business. So the employee retention credit, like I said too, you cannot take that if you already got approved for the Triple P program and vice versa. Just you know, and there's this calculation to determine you know, if you qualify for it. I would highly recommend you talk about this with your CPA, you know, to make sure you know, you are getting full advantage of the credit and you do qualify for the credit. You know, there's this big tongue twister about, you know, you have to have significant decline in gross receipts during a calendar quarter. And what you see on the screen is basically how you determine what a significant decline is, when it starts and when it ends. I guess it kind of makes sense. You really have to sit there and think about it for a while when you say, all right, yeah, I guess I see where they're going with this, but why they got the 50% and the 80% is just maybe 12 magical people around the desk just said, 80% sounds good. But it'll be interesting to see how many people take advantage of this. Where we're going to find some issues, like I said too, is if for individuals and businesses that already applied for this Triple P program and get approved, they're not going to be able to take advantage of the ERC credit, employee retention credit. So this is the deferral of IRS employer payroll taxes. This is a pretty darn good deal. So for employers that have employees, right, we all have to pay our percentage, our 7.65% of FICA taxes, you know, to the government. So, you know, half of it's withheld at the employee level, and the employer has to pay employer tax on the Social Security and Medicare. So the 6.2% Medicare tax that all employers are required to pay, they have, if they qualify, they have the opportunity to defer these taxes until the end of 2021, in which 50% would be due, and then the other 50% would be due a year from then. So it's a pretty long span of time to kind of spread these taxes out. So I think a lot of employers are going to be taking advantage of this, if not already. So you know, a couple notes down below. You know, like I said, it can be combined with the employee retention credit. It's going to be, you know, they're going to go hand in hand together. This applies to Social Security tax credit as part of the, you know, reduced deferral. And I believe this is the slide that Dan was talking about, where, you know, I was getting a lot of questions a couple of weeks ago as to, hey, Will, can I do both? Can I do one or the other? Which one do I do? Well, you know, you kind of have to, you know, either be good with a spreadsheet or have a CPA that's good with a spreadsheet, and that should be every CPA out there. You know, and you have to do an analysis of, you know, which will benefit you more. You know, I've done a lot of calculations already, and you know, it tends to work. Like, you know, for example, we'll go through the slide real quick. So the Triple P, you know, requires an application and a waiting period, and you know, there's limited funds to add to that. With the ERC, there's no application or waiting period. The waiting period is, you know, however long you file that that form, or when, you know, you file your payroll tax returns, you can essentially you know, reduce the amount due on that tax return by the credit. And again, you know, I highly recommend that a CPA do these returns for you, because I know there's a lot of small businesses out there that try to do all this stuff themselves. You know, this is an instance where I highly suggest a CPA help you with this form and with this credit. The second one, you know, we're not all guaranteed to qualify for the Triple P loan. You know, if we get turned away, keep in mind too, it's not either or. If you apply for the Triple P loan, it's if you actually get the loan. So if you apply for the Triple P program loan and you don't get it, you can take advantage of the ERC loan. It's basically guaranteed as long as you don't qualify for the other. Flip side, there is loan forgiveness on the PPP program, right? And it can cover more than $5,000 per employee, depending on, when the employee's paid. And there's a 2-month rule where up to 2 months is where the loan is forgiven. The earned income credit is limited to $5K per employee. So, the calculation that I mentioned before, this is only half the calculation, right? That's the easy part. 50% of everything up to 10K. So if you have 5 employees that make 20,000 each, basically you're taking 5 times 5. So 25,000 is your ERC credit. But then you have to go to the side and say, all right, what's the 6.2% employer portion of taxes? Well, that isn't necessarily a credit, that's a deferral. So, although you would be initially saving the 25,000 plus the 6.2, you are going to have to pay that 6.2 back in a year or two. So, there is some planning that has to go along with that. So you don't forget about it. At the end of 2021, depending on how much your Social Security tax is, you may owe a pretty penny, even split half between 2021 and 2022. So that's basically a fairly, I guess, a good comparison, better comparison than I've seen out there yet regarding the two. Most other articles and webinars I've attended just say, hey, you can't take both. Well, all right, well, thanks for that. But what's that?
It's a very elaborate analysis by them.
Yeah, so it's all right. We want to know more than that. All right, we can take. Which one should we take? And we spend a lot of time helping small businesses through this, and it's not going to stop. We're still here. So call us if you need us. The IRS stimulus payments. I'm not going to get into this too much, other than for those taxpayers that have filed their 2018 and 2019 tax returns and otherwise qualify for the stimulus payment, and the IRS has your bank account information on hand due to it being reported on either return, there's a high likelihood you got your payment. If you did not file your 2019 tax return, but you filed your 2018 tax return, there is a very high likelihood that you did not get your credit yet. Now, does that mean that you have to rush to get your 2019 tax returns filed? No. The IRS does have a portal on its website where you are supposed to be able to put your bank account information in the event that you didn't file your 2019 tax returns yet. However, unless someone can correct me on this, I tried to put my bank account information in there because I don't have my 2019 tax returns filed yet. I prepared an extension. But right now I can't put my bank account information there. It's kind of a little confusing for individuals such as myself that haven't filed their 2019 taxes yet to go in there and put your bank account information in. I just get a message saying that, hey, at this time, we can't determine if you get a credit or not. And then in fine print on the IRS website, it says, just check back once every day. They update basically at midnight every night. So this option was supposed to be available yesterday. They did make the portal available yesterday, so individuals can at least log in and get somewhere. But for, like I said, individuals like me, we're still, waiting to get our bank account information to the IRS. I will say that, if for those out there that aren't required to file a tax return, maybe because you don't have income, or retired individuals, or the elderly, or, maybe individuals that, just aren't employed, I do believe you can go on the website and you can get your information on there. But unfortunately, for those that haven't filed their 19 tax returns yet that are otherwise required to file, we're still waiting. So check back tomorrow on the IRS website. And we also have a link on the document that Makin mentioned. Nothing new here for the Families First Coronavirus Response Act. However, I do know, I'm going to assume that there's a lot of employers out there that still don't know about this new act, about the details of paid family and medical leave and paid sick leave, because a lot of employers out there and a lot of employees have children. Well, everyone that has children that are in school don't have school. So, and if they have to stay at home now because their children are home and their daycare is closed, which is basically everyone, and they can't get to work, and their employer is an employer that is an essential business, these employers should be taking advantage of this because there's a credit involved here. So I would highly encourage all those that are listening, if you're an employer and you have employees that have children, maybe read this over and call us if you need some further guidance. Dan, can individuals reach out to you as well if they have questions on this, or is this something that is kind of reserved for me?
I will gladly take any questions that you have.
Yeah, all right.
I'm by my license on where I can practice when it comes to a specific matter, but I'm happy to answer questions for educational purposes.
Okay, yeah, and the reason I mentioned that too is because we our phones are honestly ringing off the hook all day long, and what I find myself spending almost the entire day answering calls, getting back to emails, all related to this. So maybe
it's the same here.
yeah. So I know people want answers right away, so I want to give them 2 opportunities to kind of get in touch with someone, because I'm just one person. We're kind of artists.
Hey, Dan, what's the best email for you? I'm going to put it at the bottom here with Will's.
Sure. It's Daniel@kaneesq.com.
Okay, got it. I'll add it.
But yeah, absolutely. Will, I think this is a great summation of the FFCR, sorry. And it's definitely something that most businesses aren't aware of. I maybe got a few calls right when it was first passed, but then it was immediately kicked out of the cycle by the CARES Act. And
everybody's just focused on the PPP.
Yeah, exactly. So I think, do you know offhand any of the compliance requirements that you're recommending to businesses when they're doing this on the accounting side?
I'm sorry, say that one more time.
So in your practice, are you providing any advice to your clients specifically for compliance with this? I have one client that is taking advantage of it. Okay.
And I work with that client closely, and he asked about it. He attended the first webinar, and a light bulb went off, and he says, this sounds like I would be a good candidate for it. So he texted me right after the webinar, and we discussed it, and yeah, he is taking advantage of it. Now it's going to be interesting to see how the employer gets the money back, right? Because the employer essentially has to dish out this cash, right, to the employees, for this pay, which is basically 2/3 of their pay, and there's limitations, as you can see on the screen too as well, and the employer apparently gets a credit from, or gets reimbursed, so to speak, from from a certain source, right? So it'll be interesting to see how quickly this money comes back to the employer. There is an exception too. There's a going concern exception for employers with less than 50 employees. So and this exception applies because if the employer is strapped for cash because maybe they're a non-essential business, well, heck, I can't pay my employees for taking time off now. So this is going to be a burden on me as an employer. So there is an exception there. But especially if you're in a essential business and you're out there, especially medical facilities or any other facilities out there that have employees, take advantage of this because it's there for assistance. So although it's not direct cash in your pocket, you will be able to eventually come out a little more ahead than you would otherwise.
Yeah. I completely agree. This is actually a great example of an instance where you actually want to talk to an accountant, or you want to talk to an attorney, because DIY legal, DIY accounting works in a lot of areas, like when you're applying for your PPP loan. But some of the nuances you're talking about, some of these exceptions, most people won't know about, and if you talk to an accountant like Will, you're going to find out that there's this exception for businesses that have less than 50 employees, or how this applies to a self-employed independent contractor like a consultant. So I think this is a great use of you, Will.
Sure. Yeah, and keep in mind too. So if you have, it also applies to obviously individuals that are sick due to COVID-19. But it definitely applies to those individuals as well, or those individuals that need to take time off of work to care for individuals that were affected or got sick due to COVID-19. But keep in mind too. So now, paid family and medical leave. For those that have children under 18 whose school or child daycare providers closed related to COVID-19, you can potentially, those individuals can get paid up to 3 months, essentially 12 weeks. And there's a calculation that would have to go involved. For the first 2 weeks, there's a maximum of $511 per day, right? For the first 2 weeks, 5-day work week, $5,110 total. And then an additional 10 weeks, right, up to $200 per day for $10,000 total. So, and all that comes back to the employer eventually. So far, it's my understanding that this is not taxable income to the employee. So that's something that both the employee and the employer can definitely benefit from. There's more assistance there. This isn't a direct loan. However, if you were to put numbers on paper and say, how much cash or how much in taxes would I have to pay otherwise, you're going to see essentially, and I consider this, a loan. I consider this a grant. It's money that I don't have to pay back if I qualify as an employee or an employer for that matter.
Yeah, I think businesses need to keep in mind that when it comes to this stimulus, it's not just the triple P loan. It's not even just SBA loans and grants in general. There's so many different ways that the government's trying to pump money into small businesses. But they need to keep their eyes out for tax credits, for grants, for the SBA loans and lending. And then I also think with the next go of stimulus packages, they're going to have to look out for government contracts, because there's going to be infrastructure in the next one likely. And there's going to be set-asides for small businesses to do that kind of work. So there's a lot of angles that people need to pay attention to.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we had a couple questions come in, and I want to get the Q&A here too before Sara comes on as well. But yeah, I think, and this is why we wanted to make this document for everyone too. It's like there's so many things that are coming out that we're still finding out about in different ways to get, money and loans and grants. I mean, there's another thing with the Kauffman Foundation that I was looking at today too. They have like their own thing. Cities and states have some money too that they're allocating themselves. There's all these different programs that are coming out, and that's why I wanted to put together this document. So if you guys weren't on earlier, just go to joinentre.com/live. That's where this is being shown, but underneath of that, there's the document with all of this information in there and all the links and everything for you guys on there. And then we had a question here as well. So Rhonda, she spoke to the SBA this morning, and they told her that it was too late to file for the PPP since the funds for self-employed individuals have already been exhausted. Is that true, or do you guys have any update on that?
I don't. I mean, they're hearing that from the SBA directly, which is, kind of troubling to me, that the SBA is saying this.
Well, so Secretary Mnuchin from Treasury has already announced publicly that funds have been exhausted. There are no more appropriations. It's now trickling down to the banks for the banks to say, okay, we're not accepting any more loan applications because we can't get authorization and guarantees from SBA for those loans. The issue with that is what happens in the gap period, because we know that there's going to be more appropriations. We know that Senator Schumer and Senator McConnell and Secretary Mnuchin are working on a deal right now to add more money to this fund. It's whether or not a bank is going to be accepting applications to then file immediately because that happened before we even started the program. Banks were accepting applications without filing them. Or, like Rhonda is suggesting, these banks are saying, absolutely not, we are not giving any more loans out until we get further guidance. So it's not wrong. SBA is completely right that the funds are exhausted. Whether or not she should apply, I think Rhonda should talk to her individual lender, whether that's her local credit union or a bigger bank, and say, I want to give you the application so you can file it if there are more appropriations.
Yeah, I think it's strange. I mean, I've been seeing a lot of things that they're doing, like they're going to be opening up a new round and doing more money towards these programs and stuff. But
think about it as student fund.
Yeah, I was able to submit a PPP earlier today, so there's definitely people still taking them. The SBA might just be saying that because they don't know what banks are still accepting and not accepting, and who's actually going to get the money and whatnot. So they're probably just covering themselves on that end.
Yeah, I mean, some of the ways, this is how the loan programs work at SBA. You might go to a lender takes your application, takes down all your information, and then puts it into a portal with SBA, where SBA issues an authorization saying SBA is going to guarantee the loan if these terms are abided by. Those terms are repayment, prepayment, interest rates, the amount of collateral if it's required, and that authorization is then given back to the lender to put in their documents for the actual borrower. And there's a lot left to the lender to figure out with PPP because they didn't prepare anything for it, and the guidance just says the lender can put in whatever terms they think are appropriate in compliance with, and then pointing to guidance, pointing to the CARES Act, pointing to a bunch of different things that don't really give them guidance. So here, what you're seeing banks still taking applications, still taking all the information, but they're going to hit a roadblock as soon as they go to SBA to get the guarantee and say, what are the terms that we're going to use for this loan? Either the system has been shut off or they've received guidance that I don't know of saying you can keep taking applications, but they get more appropriations. I don't know because I'm not a bank. I don't know what they've been given. It's just, you're going to see differing responses. You're going to see some banks saying no more applications whatsoever. Other banks saying we're going to take your application and hold on to it. That makes sense?
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, I think we're just going to be learning so much over the next couple of weeks. Yeah. I mean, this is why we wanted to make the document in the first place, and then the presentation and everything too. So I appreciate it, guys. Thank you so much for coming on. Again, their emails are at the bottom here. Will's is on the screen there. If you guys have any, questions for us or them, reach out. This is what we're doing these streams for, is to just, be a resource for everybody, and provide value and information on everything that's going on. So thank you guys all for everything that you're doing for the entrepreneur community, and coming on and sharing your knowledge and all the information and staying up to date with everything, because I know you've probably been reading a lot and it's a lot to take in. So thank you so much.
Not at all.
Look at all that. That's a lot. And there's so much information, so we're trying to just digest it all and then package it in a way that's easy for you guys. But I think that's all the questions that we had, and I'm gonna bring on Sara so we can get into a little bit of a lighter topic, but very much important is the mental health side of everything that's going on with entrepreneurship and just business in general, and how to get through these times, and some best practices. And we have some thank yous coming in from Facebook. So thank you guys so much. We'll be doing an update. Stay tuned. We'll be probably doing another one next week or the following week to get everyone updated. And I'm going to bring on Sara. So thanks, Will. Thanks, Dan. Appreciate it, guys.
Anytime, Mike.
All righty. Let me bring on Sara.
Hello.
Hey, Sara. What's up?
Oh, nothing too much. How are you doing?
Doing really well. Yeah. Well, I'm super excited for this because this is a super important topic. And oh, there we go. Sorry. And everything that you do, being the entrepreneur yourself, but the work especially that you do, I think right now is just so important during these times, especially, and just providing a resource for people to really just be there for their overall wellness and especially their mental health during these times. So give us, feel free to dive into your background and, what you're currently doing, how you help people, who are you working with right now, and how are you helping them and everything.
Yeah, those are all great questions. So I'm the founder of Makin Wellness. We are Pennsylvania's premier therapy and coaching center. So we see clients all over the state of Pennsylvania, and we specialize in treating people who suffer from mental health, addiction, relationship issues, and more. We see a broad range of clientele, mostly professionals, attorneys, executives, business owners, politicians. So a lot of our client base are pretty high power and high stress people. And I'm also a 2-time bestselling author on Amazon. And my first book is called From Depression to Joy. And my second book is called The Happy Entrepreneur, which is basically about how you can be effective in business while, so basically like how you can be happy while you're at work and not get too stressed out.
Which is a very important thing. And I think it should be, especially when you're starting out, it should be almost your main focus, because to be really like truly successful, it's like you got to start there.
Yeah.
And especially during these times, there's just so much uncertainty. People are getting laid off. People are struggling with their businesses. What are you, with the leaders and executives that you coach, what are you sharing with them? Tips, advice, strategies, maybe even going into some of like the practices or the things that you recommend they do on a regular basis, habits, things like that. What are you sharing with all of these people that you work with during these times?
Yeah, that's a great question, Michael. So a lot of mindfulness, so a lot of forcing yourself to be present in the moment, a lot of unplugging from the mainstream media, actually. We've told a lot of our clients not to be checking the news a lot and to not be checking like the stock market as often as they have been doing before. A lot of exercising, spending more time outside, and when they start to notice they're thinking very negatively, we do something called cognitive behavioral therapy, which basically means we see what your thoughts are, and like throughout treatment, we've kind of learned more about your thinking patterns and what your thoughts are, and we help our clients to challenge those thoughts and to think more positively. So if they're really stressed out, we help them to basically challenge those negative and illogical thoughts that are making them feel stressed out. Because it's not necessarily, the events that are happening right now, but it's rather the meaning that we give to these events that make them so stressful. So if we can kind of work towards changing our perspective and changing our focus on it, then we can start to feel differently and not as stressed out. And the biggest thing, though, is that everyone's treatment's different. But the biggest things that we recommend is, meditating if you don't already, avoiding the caffeine. Every single time you drink caffeine, your body releases cortisol, which is actually the stress hormone. So for anyone who's tuning in, if you struggle with increased stress levels, if you struggle with anxiety or any type of post-traumatic stress, you really shouldn't be having any type of caffeine. Caffeine is very addictive, so don't discontinue it immediately. Wean yourself off slowly. So those are some of the things that we talk to our clients about.
Gotcha. Yeah, I think it's huge. I mean, not just caffeine, but even just nicotine itself, especially with like all of these young kids and what has happened with the, the vaping and whatnot, and people often think caffeine, coffee, yes, but tea, pop, soda, and that stuff has a lot of other things in it too. Do you know what I mean? So all of these, I think, I'm sure you work with and tell your clients and everyone about these other things as well, in addition, that they might not even think of as, bad habits and whatnot, or adding to their stress. They think of it as a stress reliever, even though it's for such a short amount of time, but they're not actually, getting that benefit. It's actually hurting them.
Oh, absolutely. And then it's a matter of considering what is going on with your health that you're feeling so exhausted that you feel like you need the supplement. If you're tired, your body's trying to tell you something, whether it be your diet's not good, you're not sleeping enough, there's too much stress. There's a lot of different things that could be going on under the surface, and that's why you're tired.
Yeah. So avoiding caffeine and other stimulants, getting good sleep, eating healthy, these are generally things I feel like people are aware of, but very few people actually take the action on it.
Yeah.
And I'm guilty of it myself at times too, and mindful, and as a, entrepreneur, there's always things going on throughout your day that, you might have good news 1 minute, the next hour, terrible news, there's ups and downs with
downs.
Exactly. So how do people as entrepreneurs or, solopreneurs, freelancers, where they're, especially right now, people are counting on, their moms and dads, or they're counting on their family, or they're providing for their children. Mm-hmm. How can they practice mindfulness or just like mental health in an easy way that they can start building that habit? Do you have any things that you recommend for people at least getting started into it to start taking control back?
Yeah, the easiest thing to do, I would say, is start out implementing a guided meditation right before you go to sleep. So a lot of people don't know that whenever you sleep, your subconscious mind is still awake and is still kind of taking in all the sounds that you hear, which is why it's terrible to sleep with the television on, because basically then the television is programming you in the way that you're thinking subconsciously. So instead of using it for your detriment, perhaps using it for the affirmative and using it for something that's good for you. So I would recommend listening to a guided meditation right before you go to bed, because the emotional state and the type of thoughts that you have right whenever you go to sleep are where you pick up at right whenever you wake up. So if you can get yourself to a place, exactly, yeah. It's kind of like a pause button whenever you go to sleep. So if you can start to think more positively, then it helps to set up your next day in a more positive way, and the momentum will start to build. So looking for a guided meditation, because guided meditations kind of, they have like words and different sounds and stuff that help to relax you without you having to meditate on your own. Because a lot of people try to meditate on their own and they've never even done guided meditations before, and they get frustrated because they can't do it. It's a lot easier to do a guided one. So Paul Santisi has wonderful guided meditations online, and they're free. So I always recommend his.
Yeah, Paul's the man.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of meditations and stuff out there, a lot of free stuff. I mean, all of Paul's stuff is great. And it's all on YouTube and Spotify. And there's a lot. And when I first started getting into meditation and stuff, I could not do like silent meditation. My mind would go a million different directions, and it's difficult. But the guided meditations, I liked because it gave you something to like think about, and it helped bring in those positive thoughts. And right now, we're taking in, and people, you don't realize how much negative and fear information you're taking in right now with the news and everything that's going on. And you need to put up your blockers, and you need to really, like Sarah's saying, get into this more positive state of mind. And I know, Sara, like we've been friends for a while now. We talk a lot about this stuff and feeling good and focusing on these, positive thoughts. Besides the guided meditation before bed, what's the next thing, right? So they do the guided meditation, get into a habit of doing that before they go to bed, start waking up in a more positive mood. What other things should they do?
So I would say that once you get to a place where you're able to relax more, the next step is to really consider what your intentions are and what it is that you want to focus on, not only within your business, but within yourself. So if you notice that you're struggling with stress, having the intention of, I am becoming more relaxed. If you look at your numbers, or you talk to your accountant, or just like, you talk to Will and you see, oh my gosh, my profit loss isn't looking as good as it normally does, having the intention of, okay, these are my numbers for this month. Let me focus and be more intentional about, this is the numbers that I want for the following month. And even writing it down. There's something really powerful that happens when you write down your goals, or even write down your, treatment objectives. So writing down your intentions, and it's quite important that you write it in the affirmative. So what I mean by that is, you don't want to write down, oh my gosh, I don't want to be stressed out anymore. It is, I want to be more relaxed, or I am becoming more relaxed. It's,
because you're focusing on the stress. If you're doing it that way, you're still focusing on the stress.
Exactly. And then
I don't want to be overweight. Well, you're focusing and thinking about being overweight, rather than focusing on, I want to be healthy or skinny, or, in that directs your attention.
Exactly. Yeah. The way that our minds work is that our subconscious mind only sees the words that you put out there and assumes that's what you want. So for instance, there's a huge difference between, I want to be, or I'm becoming slender and healthy, versus I don't want to be fat anymore. It's completely different. The latter makes your mind think about you being fat, and the first one makes your mind think about being healthy and trim. So
right.
It's important. Words and what you think and what you speak, people have no idea how powerful and how important they are. You wouldn't let someone come into your home or come into your condo and drop off buckets and buckets of garbage. So why would you let people do that to your mind? And that's what, the discernment is quite important. What type of information do you expose yourself to? Which is why we've been saying, especially now, and this isn't just making wellness, this is literally I believe it's the CDC is even saying this, to take breaks from watching the news.
Yeah.
I don't think they've ever said that before.
It's huge.
So they see that this is a big issue. Yeah.
Yeah. It's ultra consuming, and it's just adding to people's fear levels, and it's putting people in a negative state. And there's just so much pressure that's on people. Instead of looking at the opportunities, setting your intention, setting your goals, writing your goals down, like you're saying, Sara, and really being thoughtful about what you really want is so key. And setting that, like you said, the intention of that, and being really clear on what it is that you really want. And I'd like, so for maybe let's keep expanding on this. After they set this intention, are there any things that people can do once they maybe made up their mind on pursuing something, or losing weight, starting a business, growing the business, or even just pivoting the business, right?
Yeah.
Because right now, there's so many people who have to take their offline business and figure out a way to make money online right now. Mm-hmm. So after people set the intention, they get into a better state. They stop watching the news. They do the guided meditations before bed. they start feeling better, they set their intention. Now, what's the next thing after that? How can they keep the ball rolling and keep the momentum going?
Well, that's a great question. So anytime you make a decision, you really want to take some form of action within 48 hours. So even if it's a phone call, a text message, a connection on LinkedIn, whatever it is. So it's important to keep in mind. And then it's also important to keep in mind, okay, this is my long-term objective. What is the next logical step? And then focus on, okay, this is what I want to do with my business, or this is what I want to do with my mental health. What is the next logical step? So for instance, if someone is working on their increased anxiety levels, okay, the goal is to become more relaxed, then you ask yourself, okay, what is my next logical step that I can take today to get closer to that goal? And perhaps that would be not checking your phone after 9 p.m. or spending some time reading or spending some time going for a run. So bringing the long-term vision into your day and asking yourself, what step can I take today to get one step closer?
Gotcha. So it's really, being consistent and taking the same approach every day, breaking it down into smaller steps and things like that. If people are really struggling right now with everything going on, is there something besides the guided meditation and things like that? Is there a way that they can kind of jumpstart things, or just to take a deep breath, go meditate, go out, go for a walk in nature? What's something, if people are, the guided meditation might not be working, they might not be able to set an intention right now because there's just so much going on.
Yeah.
How can they get into a more calm state? I know you're working with a lot of patients right now, and I'm sure they're going through a lot of things right now, and you're probably seeing a lot of stuff over the last month with people you work with. Are there any other things that you've seen or that can really just reset somebody almost, or can help people jump back into the swing of things?
Yeah, that's a great question. So there's a couple of different things that people can do. If someone likes to exercise and enjoys exercising, then we would recommend them to go outside every single day and have very good posture. I know right now we're in Pittsburgh, it's quite cold here, but if you live in a part, if you live somewhere where it's warm, you want to have actually as much of your sun exposed, as much of your skin exposed to the sun as possible. Do diaphragmatic breathing, which is deep belly breathing, which consists of having your belly go in and out, and look up and out. Whenever you actually look up and out, your brain then tends to think of more things outside of you and tends to think a lot more positively rather than whenever you look down. So all of these things combined, if you do that once a day, that can be very helpful, especially if someone's suffering from depression or any type of extreme negative emotion. So that can be really helpful. Another activity that can be really helpful, and this is more for people that enjoy writing, is to take a piece of paper and write down every negative thought that you have on your mind. It can be about really anything, whatever it is that you want to release from you. So if you're very stressed out about the economy, if you're really stressed about your business, I can't believe my business is doing so poorly, and I put all this time and money and years into it, and write it all out. And then you want to go outside. Actually, burning something is very cathartic for humans. So what you can do is you can literally light this paper on fire and put it in a vessel. And when you're looking at this paper burning, having the intention of letting all that negative energy go, into just to kind of release and reset yourself. So that can be really helpful as well. Sometimes people will burn it up or put it in the paper shredder, but I've noticed a lot of times people really enjoy burning it instead. This activity can actually be good for anyone that's struggling with, holding on to something that is no longer serving them. So that can be really good as well.
I love it. That's awesome. Yeah, I've never done that, but I think
powerful. I mean,
just being able to like just cut the ties to the negative, not just thoughts, but even just feelings and all of that. It's so critical.
Yeah, it definitely is. And I wanted to mention one more quick thing about that.
Yeah.
These times when we have really, really negative thoughts or beliefs about something, they tend to come in layers, kind of like an onion. So whenever you do that activity, you might take off one layer of the onion and then you realize, oh my gosh, I have all this other negative stuff that I didn't even realize. So you might have to do this activity a couple times. And the ideal place to get to is a feeling of neutrality once you start thinking about the thing that used to stress you out.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
We're going to jump into a Q&A here shortly. So if anyone has any questions, now's the time to ask Sara, and we can dive into that shortly. So I want to just like as a final kind of thing here, Sara, what are you, obviously I'm sure like yourself going through all of this and, everything. What are the things that you're doing in your daily routine life that you've seen work really well? And how are you recommending people just go through things like for the next, 6 to 12 months? I mean, this is going to be, I think things are going to start to get back to normal in May and June. But, who knows how long people might kind of have to be in some ways isolated or socially distanced. I know there's so much, energy and value as humans we get from the human connection.
Yeah.
For that missing maybe over the next 6 months or so, I just want to get your thoughts on where you see things going and any advice that you can give the people over the next 6 to 12 months dealing with all of these things.
Yeah, well, the biggest advice that I would give is honestly connect with a professional who knows what they're doing and can help you, because for everyone's healing journey is completely different. And so some of the things that work for me might not work for everyone else. So like some of the things that I do, like I love to walk outside. I've been eating very healthy, taking my vitamins, reading a ton, meditating a ton. I just got a Peloton the other day and I loved every second of it. What else?
I'm killing it right now. They're doing really well.
And
what?
Say that again. I didn't hear you.
The Peloton.
What did you say?
Now, Peloton, like the company in general, they're
my god,
crushing it.
Oh
yeah.
Yeah. Well, they closed down our gym. Like, I need something.
Well, and that's silly. Like I've been trying to walk outside every day, and it's just like getting just fresh air. But right now, it's also a great time to just work on yourself.
Oh my gosh, yeah, it's the perfect time.
And read, right? Like no one has time to do like any of this like self-development stuff most of the time during our busy lives. And now it's like you there's no excuses.
There's literally no excuses anymore. Yeah.
Right.
One good thing, like taking advantage of this downtime that we have and looking at it in a more positive way. Like, yeah, like there's a lot of negative and challenging things happening, but especially as like, as an entrepreneur, I mean, most of us aren't home very often. We're normally traveling and, going to all these different places. Like we're not used to having downtime and having extra time to do things that we enjoy. So it's considering like, what is it that you even like to do and doing more of that. Looking at it as more of a positive kind of thing rather than all doom and gloom, because it's not all doom and gloom. There's, everything ends up working out in the way that it needs to.
100%. There's always a silver lining. There's always opportunity. And right now there's so much opportunity out there.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
So it's just looking at it through a different lens, adapting to the circumstances and continuing to see kind of what are these opportunities out there. How can I continue to stay in a positive state of mind, feel good, go through the things that you mentioned, meditating, setting their intentions, routines, all of that, and getting rid of like all the negative stuff that's going on.
Yeah, those are all really important things. And at the end of the day, it's always, your mind is so important. Your mind is so precious.
Right.
So doing whatever you can to have power over your mind rather than giving up control to another, outside thing to control the way that you think or influence the way that you think, because it's not all doom and gloom.
Exactly. Yeah, it's so critical. I think right now, and this is one of the reasons why we want to do these live streams and continue doing all of our events. It's just great giving people a positive place to come, learn from experts and amazing founders and people like yourself, and just getting, in the environment where we're discussing positive things, and it's not just like, oh, what shitty thing happened today, like that's what you're gonna see on the news and stuff. So I want to be respectful of your time as well, because I know you're super busy, and I know we're right at 5:30. So that pretty much wraps it up. Feel free, if you want to share where people can find you. I know I put your email here right at the bottom.
Yeah.
Makinwellness.com. Where else can people find you and learn more about you if they want to get in contact with you?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So you guys can follow us on LinkedIn, on Facebook, Instagram, even Pinterest. It's all at Makin Wellness. And another thing too, if you have a commercial insurance plan, a lot of the commercial insurance companies are waiving the copays. So that's pretty major. So if you're a Pennsylvania resident and you need some support, just give us a call with your insurance card and we'll match you up with a highly rated provider.
That is a fantastic offer.
Yeah.
I mean, I think there's people from a few different states and stuff, but I mean, look, utilize Sara as a resource. She's been studying this industry for a long time. She's a master at manifesting and being positive and helping people get back into that state. So definitely reach out to her. Check out her books. There's her email at Makin Wellness. Feel free to reach out to us if you have any questions. And we'll also be sending her info in the thank you email tomorrow as well. But I think that about does it. Thank you all for joining. Again, if you need anything, feel free to reach out to us. We have a bunch of upcoming events going on over the next few weeks. Obviously, all virtual. You know what I mean? And hopefully we can get back to in-person events soon. But we'll see how things go. But it's just join entre.com/events. You can see our full calendar. And we really just want to be a resource for everybody out there during these times. And feel free to reach out to us if you need anything at all. So thank you all for joining. And that wraps it up. Thank you, Sara. That was awesome. I enjoyed it. It was great seeing you. We haven't been able to meet for a while, even though we're both in Pittsburgh. But it's good catching up, and weird times, but I'm glad we were able to do this.
Yeah, I am too.
Okay. Thanks, everybody.
See ya.